There are moments in sport when the headlines write themselves. A blistering forehand winner on match point, a trophy lifted high under the Parisian sun, or a giant killing upset that makes the crowd gasp. But at Roland-Garros in May 2024, the story that truly captured the imaginations of fans had nothing to do with forehands or trophies. It was about something far more human, far more dramatic: love. For weeks leading into the French Open, JANNIK Sinne was the talk of tennis. Italy's brightest star, the boy from the Dolomites with ice in his veins and fire in his racket, was chasing clay court glory. Yet sharp-eyed viewers spotted something unusual in the stands. Time and again, amid the usual sea of coaches, physiotherapists, and agents, there was one familiar face: Anna Kalinskaya, a talented Russian player climbing steadily into the WTA's top 30. She was hardly a stranger to the circuit. But her presence at Sinner's matches was different. Watchful, intimate, invested. At first, whispers swept through social media. Was this merely camaraderie between two professionals? A friendly show of support from one athlete to another? Or was there something more? Tennis fans thrive on speculation, and soon the tabloids had their hooks in. But nobody quite expected what came next. It was in the middle of a routine press conference that the world found out. A journalist, half smiling, half testing the waters, asked Sinner a sly, indirect question about his support team. There was a pause, the briefest flicker of hesitation across JANNIK's face. Then, with a grin that seemed to break through his normally stoic exterior, he answered simply, "Yes, I'm with Anna." The room froze. For a player known for his focus, for a man whose private life had always been guarded like a baseline rally, this was seismic. Headlines exploded across Italy and beyond. Sinner confirms romance. The story instantly transcended sport. It wasn't just about a young champion chasing titles anymore. It was about a love story played out under the gaze of millions. And what a pairing it seemed. Anna Kalinskaya, calm yet fiercely competitive, known among peers for her quiet confidence. JANNIK Sinne, the composed assassin of the men's game, all red hair and relentless ground strokes. Together they were tennis's golden couple, their chemistry obvious even in the smallest gestures. A glance across a practice court, a smile between changeovers, an embrace after a grueling match. But while fans swooned, insiders wondered, could such a relationship survive the furnace of professional tennis? Could two rising stars, both with their own dreams, schedules, and pressures, truly find balance together? History was littered with cautionary tales, romances that burned bright but ended in ashes under the relentless spotlight. Yet, in those heady days of spring, none of that seemed to matter. For Sinner and Kalinskaya, the story was only just beginning, and the world was watching with bated breath. What followed Roland-Garros was a summer that seemed to belong not only to tennis, but to romance itself. For once, JANNIK Sinner's most powerful shot wasn't his backhand. It was the image of him strolling hand-in-hand with Anna Kalinskaya through the training grounds at Halle, or enjoying a quiet dinner in Rome, captured by paparazzi lenses that never seemed to blink. The grass season brought its own scrutiny. Sinner, still chasing consistency on the slickest of surfaces, carried the weight of expectation from Italy and beyond. Yet, remarkably, he seemed lighter, more assured. His composure on court felt mirrored by something new off it. The calm certainty of a man no longer defined only by rankings or results. Observers began to murmur that Anna was the steadying force, the anchor to his competitive storm. By the time the U.S. Open arrived in late August, anticipation had reached fever pitch. Sinner's game was clicking, his confidence sharpened, his fitness finally matching the brutal demands of best-of-5 tennis. Match after match, he bulldozed through opponents, leaving only one question. Was this finally his time? And then came the night when it all aligned. Under the neon lights of Arthur Ashe Stadium, with New York's restless crowd buzzing, JANNIK Sinne captured his maiden Grand Slam title. The moment the final ball sailed long, he dropped his racket, eyes blazing with disbelief and joy. But what happened next eclipsed even the sporting achievement. Sinner didn't head to his team box first. He didn't search for his coach or physio. Instead, he sprinted straight towards Anna. Cameras caught it in exquisite clarity. The wide smile, the desperate embrace, the kiss that seemed to last forever in sporting memory. It wasn't staged. It wasn't PR. It was raw, unfiltered love in the biggest arena tennis has to offer. That photograph, Sinner, the champion in Anna's arms, became the image of the tournament, perhaps even of the season. It symbolized not just triumph, but the intoxicating collision of sport and intimacy. Fans across the globe shared it, framed it, celebrated it. For a moment, it felt as though the sport had a royal couple, destined to rule both the courts and the headlines. Every fairy tale in sport has its shadows, and for JANNIK Sinne and Anna Kalinskaya, the shadows came not from defeat on court, but from the relentless glare of the outside world. The U.S. Open embrace had been magical, unforgettable, but it also placed the couple firmly in the crosshairs of the media. Overnight, they were no longer simply athletes. They were celebrities, their relationship dissected in headlines and hashtags, their every move interpreted, twisted, and amplified. Italian tabloids were the first to pounce. Stories began surfacing that Sinner was preparing to propose. Anonymous sources claimed a ring had been purchased. Glossy magazines ran mock-up covers of Italy's favorite son planning a wedding with his Russian sweetheart. Fans lapped it up, convinced they were witnessing the prelude to sport's next great power marriage. Sinner, usually so composed, laughed it off when asked. "My wedding? That's news to me, too," he quipped at one press conference, smiling in a way that hinted at both amusement and frustration. Anna, meanwhile, responded with her trademark grace, thanking fans for their kind wishes, but firmly clarifying that the rumors were false. Yet, as every athlete knows, once a narrative takes root, it rarely lets go. The questions kept coming louder each week. Behind the curtain, the strain began to show. Tournament schedules were merciless, dragging them to opposite sides of the globe for weeks at a time. While Anna battled on the WTA circuit, fighting for every ranking point, JANNIK was swallowed by the ATP's constant demands, the expectations of a Grand Slam champion now weighing heavily on his shoulders. Fans noticed the subtle changes first. Fewer photographs together, no playful interactions on Instagram, no shared stories from hotels or airports. And then came the moment that sent social media into overdrive. Anna unfollowed JANNIK on Instagram. For some, it was trivial. For others, it was proof that the fairy tale had cracked. Speculation became a feeding frenzy. Was it jealousy? Was it distance? Was it simply the impossibility of two careers colliding at the highest level? Nobody knew. And the couple remained silent, refusing to issue the carefully crafted statements so many other athletes resort to. That silence, in many ways, spoke louder than any words. In the locker rooms and corridors of tournaments, whispers grew. Rivals, journalists, even fans sensed a change in atmosphere. Where once there had been laughter and warmth, there was distance. Where once there had been shared courtside support, now there were separate journeys, separate glances, separate lives. It wasn't dramatic. Not yet. There were no explosive arguments, no public scandals. Instead, it was the slow erosion that so often undoes even the strongest bonds. The spotlight that had illuminated their love story now cast a harsher light, exposing the fractures that fame and pressure can so easily create. By the spring of 2025, the silence had become deafening. The once beloved couple of tennis had all but vanished from the public stage. No more shared appearances, no more hints of intimacy, no reassuring photographs to remind fans that the spark was still alive. For weeks, speculation reached fever pitch. Had they split? Were they still together behind closed doors? Or were they simply choosing to retreat from the glare? The answer arrived in Rome. At the Italian Open, Sinner's home tournament, his stage, his fortress, the questions inevitably resurfaced. He had just returned from a short break from the sport, his body recharged, but his mind still carrying the weight of relentless scrutiny. And then, during a routine press conference, a journalist asked the question directly, cutting through months of rumors. "Are you still in a relationship?" Sinner didn't flinch. He didn't dance around the subject or offer a vague platitude. Instead, with the same icy calm that defines his baseline game, he said simply, "I'm not in a relationship." 6 words delivered without drama, yet powerful enough to end months of speculation. The impact was immediate. Headlines blazed across Europe. Sinner confirmed split. Social media erupted, half in heartbreak, half in admiration for his honesty. Fans of the couple, who had clung to hope, now faced reality. The fairy tale was over. And yet, there was something dignified in the way it ended. No recriminations, no finger-pointing, no messy unraveling for the tabloids to feast on. Instead, it was the quiet close of a chapter, an acknowledgement that love, however powerful, can sometimes yield to circumstance. For Anna Kalinskaya, the separation became a chance to focus entirely on her career. Free from the constant association with Sinner, she climbed steadily through the WTA rankings, her game sharper, her resolve firmer. Among peers, she earned respect not just for her talent, but for her resilience. Where others might have faltered under the glare of gossip, Anna seemed to thrive, determined to let her tennis, and only her tennis, do the talking. Sinner, meanwhile, doubled down on his mission. Already a Grand Slam champion, he set his sights on consolidating his place among the giants of the game. His performances carried a new steeliness, as though these personal turbulence had been folded back into the ruthless machine of his professional life. He no longer offered glimpses into his private world, no longer entertained questions about romance. Instead, his message was clear. The court is where he lives, and tennis is the only relationship he wishes to discuss. For fans, the story may have ended in disappointment, but in truth, it was a reminder of the precarious balance every athlete must strike. Love and ambition rarely coexist easily under the harsh lights of professional sport. The demands are too great, the sacrifices too many, and yet, for a fleeting year, JANNIK Sinner and Anna Kalinskaya showed the world that it was possible. That even in the high-pressure, cutthroat arena of global tennis, two people could find each other and share something real. Their chapter is closed, but their legacy endures. Not as a scandal, not as a cautionary tale, but as a story of youth, ambition, and the kind of fragile beauty that sport so often produces. And as both continue their separate climbs, one on the ATP's grand stages, the other on the WTA's relentless battleground, fans will remember the embrace in New York, the kiss in Arthur Ashe Stadium, the moment when love and glory intertwined. Because sometimes, in sport as in life, it isn't about how the story ends. It's about the moments that stay with us forever. In the end, what makes the Sinner-Kalinskaya story so captivating is not just its romance nor its quiet ending, but what it reveals about the fragile balance between love and greatness. For a year, two young athletes allowed the world a glimpse into their private lives, and for a moment it seemed perfect. The champion and his muse, united by the same passion for the game. Yet sport, like life, is rarely so simple. The very forces that brought them together, ambition, discipline, sacrifice, were also the ones that pulled them apart. And so their story lingers, not as tabloid fodder, but as a parable. It asks the questions every athlete, every fan, perhaps every person must face. Can you chase glory and intimacy at the same time? Can love survive under the weight of expectation? For JANNIK and Anna, the answer was complicated. For us, the audience, it remains hauntingly unresolved. Perhaps that is why we can't look away. Because beyond the trophies and statistics, it is these human stories, fragile, flawed, beautiful, that remind us why we care so much about sport in the first place.